Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 673 on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2026. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week you'll hear about one story where we have warned this sort of thing would happen. In new car news, you'll learn which company is popping the champagne. And in points of interest, we expect you too will be thinking about shoulder pads and miners' strikes. But first, we have a smidgen of follow-up. And thank you to friend of the show, Phil Huff, who heard our desperate pleas. Phil, you were our only hope, and has answered the question we had last week about the FLEXIS platforms and what were the first vehicles to be coming. Had they come out? Are they coming out? What's happening? And they haven't come out yet, but the new models of the Traffic, Estafette, and Giulia are going to be the first of the three vehicles that come out from FLEXIS, all electric platforms. And they're going to be supported by Ampere, their software-defined vehicle architecture. But the launch is later this year.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to talk a bit more about these?
Yeah, I suppose we better have...
The Traffic E-Tech is Traffic.
Yes.
It is Renault Traffic-sized van, but electric. That's it. It is the least interesting of the trio, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The Estafette is, if you're aware of the van that Rivian sells in North America that's sold initially to Amazon, very much in the blue colour that's shown here, then the Estafette is like a slightly smaller Europeanized version of that. So it's a very, very tall delivery van, sliding door. You can step, walk through, access, shutter doors that open up into the ceiling like that. It's a European scale version of that Rivian van.
Yep.
The last one is the Giulia. I think that's correct. E-Tech. Now, the idea of this is it's basically a chassis cab, and that you can then configure, customize whatever it is that you need for the back. If you need a custom body for supermarket deliveries, if you need some sort of special market trader version, although I can see that being the second life for the Giulias, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then this is the one that people would buy and configure. There will be a number of factory conversions available. Renault have established an in-house team called, it's QSTOMIZE. It's Customize. I was trying to explain to Andrew earlier on that this is very witty in French, and this is and is very international, especially if you take it with English words.
Yes, because we're going to. There's a story already lined up for next week in which we are going to be assaulted once again by.
Is that for next week?
Yes.
So yes, the Customize makes me laugh every time, and all of those variants will all come off. They're all based on the same architecture, the same platform, with different stuff stuck on top. The software, as opposed to the physical platform, is part of their new, what they're calling SDV architecture, software defined vehicles. You'll have heard me talk about those recently. The idea is that there is a fundamental sort of Android-based Karos that Ampere developed, and the idea is that there'll be different software that you can put on top of that, particularly useful if you're a fleet, for example. If and when La Poste orders up a whole stack of these, then you can bet that there will be La Poste branded navigation, driver management, all of that kind of stuff installed on them, which makes a lot of sense, really. There's even a safety coach system that scores driving behavior and suggests improvements to reduce risk and fuel or energy usage. It's really the energy usage. Like sort of driving with you. Don't spill your water or your tofu.
No, but the problem is some organizations may use that as a way to mark drivers, and it's totally wrong to do that.
That's true, because it is complete rubbish, because it's so dependent on the route and conditions and all sorts of stuff.
I don't want to get too angry now, because there's an article later on that I'm saving my anger up for.
There's loads of stuff for him to get angry about. Yeah.
But thank you, Phil, for helping us out with that.
There'll be a link in the show notes to the story on Professional Van. There's loads of pictures of the interiors, the dashboards, all of that stuff, showing all the great stuff that we'd like to know about new vehicles, but so few publications actually ever bother their bottoms giving.
Yep.
including a handy fill for scale.
Yes.
Which is more useful than you might think.
Yes.
Phil Huff, more useful than you might think. Oh, no.
I hope his LinkedIn will be updated accordingly. Skills and experience.
I don't care about his LinkedIn. It's my WhatsApp I'm worried about.
Anyway, do you want to take us on to new news? Not that it is good news.
It's not really good news, and it's not particularly new news. It sort of sits on the boundary between follow-up and new news. Stellantis globally has posted a 22.3 billion euro or $26.3 billion net loss for 2025. This is not a massive surprise.
No.
Especially due to that 25.4 billion euros of this comes from what Autoblog via Yahoo Finance is describing as resetting the product plan and EV supply chain to reflect customer demand and shifting regulations. Yeah, but we're going to put Hemi in it. For North America, for everywhere else, slightly different, not building a battery plant or not taking part in a battery plant, which will now not be built as a result of that, and all sorts of things like that. Lots of this, obviously, is because of external influences and drivers, as in corporate drivers rather than car drivers.
Yes.
And some of it, of course, is all the fault of the last guy, given there has been a change of leadership since, and it's all going to be okay for 2026. I think I praised that article quite successfully.
Yes, they have. There is lots of talk about how things they have changed are already bearing fruit, etc., etc. But when we talked about the last quarter results a couple of weeks ago, we said that we fully expect there to be some talking about the grand plan. It's all okay. Don't worry. Don't panic. Although the CEO, Antonio Filosa, did get paid over $6 million for what he was employed for last year.
Yeah, which is impressive.
Which has not seemingly gone down well in American press.
No, because they get really angry about car manufacturer CEOs and their pay. I had forgotten, by the way, I know I keep joking about just stick a Hemi in it, but in actual fact, the new Dodge Charger, the six-cylinder version, is called the six-pack. I had completely forgotten that was the case.
Right, I'm going to bring us back to Blighty now, and the news still isn't very positive, I have to say, and it's Aston Martin. They have seen a 36% drop in profits last year, which they are primarily putting down to the tariffs and the fact that they had fewer high-margin special editions that were sold. And as a result, they have announced they are going to cut... It's put such in a nice way in the headline of the Autocar article, Aston Martin to cut staff costs by 20%. No, they're getting rid of 20% of the workforce.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's not right. There's no bonuses. There's no overtime payment, and there will be no wage increases. That is, we're cutting 20% of jobs.
Yeah, they also sold 10% fewer cars than the year before as well. Now, a lot of this, obviously, tariff uncertainty, blah, blah, blah. But we were discussing this earlier on, and you were saying that basically it's 364 days since we last covered Aston Martin cutting 20% of costs, workforce, whatever. This is this year's round, sadly.
What is interesting, though, Adrian Hallmark, who's the CEO, he's one of the few to talk about how and I'm quoting here from the article that is quoting him, says an unpredictable policy landscape and supply chain challenges. One of the few car brands that have come out and said, because the idiotic decisions that are being made apparently on a whim, we've been totally stuffed.
Yeah, good on him for actually saying that, and it's a challenge of which most car companies are actually suffering. Renault, for example, that we just talked about, by the way, being one that it has far less impact on because they're not in the North American market.
Yeah,
but most car companies are having to suffer that, and very few of them seem to actually come out and say it.
Yeah,
which is to their detriment, I feel.
I think so. Well, talking of strange decisions, do you want to take us to California?
Well, the story involves Tesla, so let's face it, there is going to be a strange decision made at some point. Tesla and the California Department of Motor Vehicles have been having something of a tiff, and it was over the words autopilot and full self-driving. implying levels of autonomy that the cars don't have.
Yep.
And by the way, just to mention, in the background to all this, there is a class action by owners who have been paying either a chunk of money or a subscription on the promise that the implied level of autonomy was imminent, as it has been for almost a decade now. And so there's a big class action going on in the background. California DMV won their case and said, look, you can't call it autopilot, you can't call it full self-driving. And so Tesla went ahead and complied because it was either that or it wasn't allowed to sell cars in California.
Yep.
Someone somewhere in Tesla has now had a change of heart and decided that this was not a good idea, and that in actual fact it's going to sue the DMV in turn because it needs to clear the false advertiser label so that it has some form of credibility with regulators, customers, public, etc., and that the result of the case previously is going to have a lasting effect on Tesla and its ability to do things.
They are technically complaining, and this is quoting from a CarScoops article, that their lawsuit that the regulators wrongfully and baselessly labelled Tesla a false advertiser over its prior use of the terms autopilot and full self-driving.
Despite the fact that it's been proven to have been false advertising due to its prior use of autopilot and full self-driving.
Well, it's like the Tesla's definition of beta is not the same as everyone else in the entire world's definition of beta.
Yeah, but the thing is that, of course, if it is told it was that false advertiser label, leaves the door wide open for that class action suit.
Mm-hmm. So they've got to fight it.
So we'll see how this goes. Personally, I'm on the side of the California DMV and of the people in the class action.
Yeah, as we've said repeatedly over the years.
Speaking of class actions and going completely off topic and what we've got to talk about, I got a letter through the door about the car finance class actions.
Oh, yeah.
A flyer from a law firm here in the UK wanting me to sign up to that with them and raising awareness. Someone somewhere must still feel that there's a chance of money from that, lots of money. I think the longer it goes on, the less money there's going to be.
Oh, there's definitely going to be less because the regulators already hinted that it is reviewing, particularly if in-house finance has provided the finance. Mm-hmm. Because, of course, dealers don't get any bonuses based on that at all. No, that never happens.
No, I'm sure not. Anyway, sorry, that wasn't as part of the schedule. That's not in the show notes. That's me going off on a tangent.
No, it's not. It's not in the show notes or anything like that. Though we're waiting for the definitive ruling on that or statement to come out before we bring that up. Anyway, on something that we do actually know about now, thanks to the government deciding to release in quiet times, that they actually asked O2 for details of around 25 million devices on their networks, which includes the likes of Tesco Mobile and Sky Mobile, so that they could analyze the data provided to see whether someone actually owned an EV or was a passenger in an EV. They did this for 2 years. The Conservative government was in charge when this was started, and the Labour government was in charge when it was finished. The idea was to help them provide, and I'm quoting from an article on Yahoo News, which is, I think, from the Standard, to provide, quote, a comprehensive evaluation and understanding of the uptake and usage of electric vehicles.
Sounds like spying on me.
Well, it is spying on you, for starters. There's lots of liberal use of the word anonymized data, which is absolute horse dung, because from the very nature of the information they wanted, you are automatically de-anonymized.
Yeah.
Because they are tracing where you are, what you're doing, times of days, all this sort of stuff. It's I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm not surprised because we've harped on this show that this is the sort of thing that will happen, does happen.
Are you upset, let down, and disappointed that you were correct?
I am getting bored of being correct on really negative things, I have to say.
It has been your key skill for a decade, mate.
I would like to pick something positive and that is for good, for society or the wider world, and be right about that. But unfortunately, I seem to be able to be pretty good at picking stuff that is actually to our detriment. Now, the other thing about this is we only know about this because this report came out quietly the back end of last week. And we only know that they were using this particular set of data they've asked for at this particular time to try and establish if someone was an EV owner. We don't know what else they have decided to do with that data, for starters. We don't know what else they are doing at any time when it comes to whatever way they feel they can legitimately track us, monitor us, etc. The problem is they destroyed trust by doing this, by not telling people, right, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be tracking your data because we're trying to establish this, this, and this. They didn't tell anyone that. They just did this secretly and quietly, and it's only come out after.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a way to go forward with these things if you want to be considered as a government that is working with and for the nation it's supposed to be serving.
Yes. I'm sure that the organisation or organisations that provided the advice to put this in place got paid handsomely as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a reminder why they should all be disbanded. Anyway, something a bit more positive from the government, though.
Yes. Home EV charger grants are going to be extended until 2027, with slight changes in who can actually qualify for them. Renters, flat owners, homeowners without driveways and businesses can get a bigger contribution to installing home chargers. And that includes not just the charger, but also perhaps installing the routing through the pavement for the cable so that people don't trip over it and that kind of thing. Previously, obviously, it was restricted to homeowners with driveways. Then they rolled out to renters, and now it's being moved out to residents who park in the street. It's up to £500 off the cost of installation. That is a significant dent. That's on it's listed in this article as being almost half the cost of installing a home charger. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. I saw on LinkedIn last week some people very proudly stood virtually on top of one of these pavement gullies, and it looked an absolute dog's dinner. I thought someone had DIY'd it. It looked that much of a mess, and I thought that's not going to last.
It does involve councils, though. Was it real, or was it AI generated because it was LinkedIn? So
it was legit, apparently, because they were announcing it was the first of many they were going to be doing. Because here's the other thing, not all councils...
Oh, hopefully they'll get better at it.
Well, looking at the materials they use, they need to change that for starters. Not all councils actually allow you to put these in, particularly in London. There's many councils in London that refuse because they don't want to have to pay to maintain them afterwards. And some others are getting around this by charging an annual fee to residents who put them in to help offset the cost of maintenance.
Those seem understandable positions to take, I think. I'm not a fan of London borough councils, generally speaking, because they all fight and have their own little fiefdoms. But I can understand why that's the case. I'm not saying I like it, and if I lived there and I wanted to charge an EV, I'd probably be really peeved at it. But I can also, to an extent, understand their position and why they've maybe decided to do that. It's an extra amenity that you have. What happens then if you sell your house and somebody else has it then?
Yeah.
Who pays for that if you're not using it? Well, I'm not using it, so I'm not going to pay the amount per month. And then,
are you going to dig it up and then fix the pavement, dear council? Or just leave it to go to disrepair?
Well, that's true. That's the counter argument.
That's a problem for another day, as I think the much of the thought behind a lot of our stuff happening is done.
I think you'll find that's SEP, someone else's problem.
Yes.
What's our problem now, though, is that we've reached Guilt Minute, the quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of Patreon include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you, everyone that does. Very much appreciated.
Yes.
Right, new car news, and we have a bit this week. The first is to congratulate Renault for their 5 E-Tech winning the UK Car of the Year Awards 2026. They were the overall winner. 20 of the 33 judges voted for it. Those of us judging, this was not a surprise, shall we say, that this won it. They were awarded last week. They were given the award, which is a steering wheel, which they will proudly show off now for 12 months. It beat out the competition that involved for the family car, the Kia EV4. The small crossover was the Citroën C3 EC3 Aircross. Medium crossover was the Skoda Elrock. The large crossover was the Hyundai Ioniq 9. The executive car was the Audi A6. The estate car was the Audi A6 Avant. And the performance car was the Alpine A290. Congratulations, Renault. Well done.
Yep. We all know about the Renault 5. Let's talk about the Lepas L8. Which is, it feels, both of these stories feel a bit like follow-up, but they really don't belong in the follow-up section at the start. We talked about the Lepas L8, or late. Oh, God, they've called it the Lepas Late. It doesn't get any much better, does it?
Well, I see they still have the problem of not being able to put the license plate directly properly done on Photoshop either.
No, it's still on the wall. It looks about 2 centimeters too far to the left in that picture. This is the first model from the Omoda Jaiku sibling team, which are all variants of Chery, the Chinese group. For goodness sakes, just sell them all under the one flaming brand, please. The idea is that this is a rival to the likes of the Mazda CX-5 and the Toyota RAV4, and it's expected to arrive as a plug-in hybrid. The L8 is going to be its flagship, and it is going to be a 5-seat SUV. In other markets, such as Indonesia, which is not often directly comparable to the UK automotive market, but there we go. It's sold exclusively with plug-in hybrid powertrains, which is the same as the one, the JQ7, which are, I don't know about around you, but they are everywhere around here.
Yeah, we do quite well for JQs around here.
Yeah. You can expect the same. That power pack, 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, electric motor, 18.3 kilowatt-hour battery. That should, in theory, gives you 56 miles of electric-only range and 204 brake horsepower. Did I drive it? I forget. I think I did drive it, yes. I was definitely in one of the JQ7s at the SMMT Day last year. And it was fine. It was Chinese SUV, so it was just fine. We were driving it on the hill route at Millbrook. It was maybe not the best sort of standard traffic optimized scenario for relatively large SUV with not a lot of power, really. They are expected to offer an electric version of the L8 later. Obviously, there's a dashboard with nearly no buttons, etc., etc., etc. More details in coming weeks. Whether or not we'll cover them is a different matter, but I'm sure you'll find your... I don't know. Do you think the dealerships will refer to them as colonies or something? So that was a slow burn, that one, wasn't it?
I just go back to when we first talked about Lepas. Was why, what makes you different from any of the others from the Chery group? What makes you different at all?
But why isn't this just an Omoda? You're already basically selling this, or a JQ7. Other than the fact that you want something that's a bit less aggressive. I don't understand why they're different. Why they have chosen to sell this as well as 2 other very similar models.
Yeah, I mean, the Omoda's a bit more pointy. The JQ's taken lots of hints from JLR.
And Jeep.
Yeah, and Jeep. And this just looks... They've slapped a massive grille on it. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether this is meant to be slightly more premium or something. It's just no, I don't get it.
I get the feeling it's supposed to be more premium, but I don't understand how it is, other than the fact that it has some plastic chrome on the front of it, all of which seems to be shiny, if that's a real photo. Never mind, I'm sure it'll all make sense one day.
Anyway, a story that we are a bit more interested in, and this is old dead cars back from death. And Alfa Romeo has announced that the Giulia and Stelvio Quadrifoglio, the 4 cheese. The 4 cheeses are coming back. I just can't say it anymore.
Quadrifoglio.
Thank you. Said it like that for so long.
I love that they're announcing this around Easter. That makes me happy.
Yes.
these are cars that we are fans of.
Very much.
Although listeners right back in the early days before they were launched will know that we were very skeptical.
Mm.
And then we both spent some time with them.
Yep.
And I'm a Stelvio fanboy, really.
And I'll happily take a Giulia.
And I know that you are a big fan of the Giulia.
Well, why this is happening is because the EV platform that was going to be used to replace this has now been delayed, and they are now trying to make this hybrid powertrains now. They've had to bring these back to fill in for the interim to go into next year, which is no bad thing for anyone who likes a very rapid Alfa.
Yes.
We are not losing out by this coming back in any way.
No. These are 11 years old.
What? No.
Yeah. It says here it says, based on the then new Giulia platform, the saloon SUV siblings were introduced in 2015 and have been only lightly updated since then. I don't think that's right. I think they're newer than that.
They may have been shown off as this is coming.
Yeah.
They didn't come out till after we've been going for a few years.
That's exactly what I was thinking there. Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, they're very cool. They're well worth I mean, say particularly the Stelvio. I mean, don't get, especially if you're someone who is relatively vocal about dislike for SUVs, it is basically a Giulia wagon with big wheels.
Mm.
That's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
I like them a lot. I do like them a lot.
Yep.
Honda. This is recall news, and it's not often Honda comes up in recall news.
No, it isn't.
But Honda is recalling some Civics, specifically 10th generation models built between 2017 and 2022. And it says 46,000 UK cars could be affected. In the EU, or on mainland Europe, the European Commission has published some more details on this recall. Issue is that wheel nuts were not being fitted tightly enough. So the wheel could come loose when driving. Well, specifically, the nuts could come loose while driving, and then the wheel could come loose while driving. The worst case scenario of that is, of course, a risk of wheel loss.
That does seem quite bad.
Yes, but I would hope that somebody somewhere has checked a wheel nut since at least 2021.
Yeah, you hope.
I mean, it's not necessarily, because they're getting on a wee bit. The tyres are getting on a wee bit to start with. Honda's confirmed to Autocar that only optional alloys are affected, but it didn't expand any further, and affected owners are being contacted. It said the whole 46,152 units, it says, could be impacted. I think that's a very, very big could, and that the numbers are actually going to be relatively low, I would say.
Yeah, because what they're going to do is they're going to send a letter out with the QR code, and then customers will submit pictures of their wheels. So then Honda will go, yeah, don't worry, you're fine, or not.
Yes, exactly. And it says, in the meantime, customers may continue to drive the vehicles in the current condition. If I owned one of those, I'd just go out and tweak to make sure my wheel nuts are properly tightened up.
Yes, go check your nuts.
And then I would feel that I'm good to go. You should be doing that in.
Yep.
Men at our age, it's important.
Absolutely. Right, points of interest. And I'm going to take us onto a lunchtime read this week, and it's from Haggerty, written by Alex Wakefield. And it is titled Jelly Mold Theory, and it actually gets you to stop and think before you come out with the statement, which I am very guilty of, I know this, of all cars look the same these days, which I know irks many, and others jump up and down and go, no, it is true.
Me.
But this is actually a really well-written article that will cause you to pause and think as he goes through some cars from the past to expound on his theory. But I don't want to say too much because I'll spoil it.
Yeah, you just have to walk around sort of many local car shows and see that there are eras of car in which they all look almost identical.
Yeah,
particularly post-war. For me, particularly post-war. I hate that everybody says it every generation. But this is really nicely written article, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
List of the week this week, he says, scrolling back to the top of it so he can remember what it's called, is from BBC Top Gear, and it's called These Are the 50 Greatest Cars of the 1980s. Don your shoulder pads, perm your hair, and prepare to revisit the decade of excess. says Jack Scarlett. There are 50. There's some really good ones. To be honest, of which I could choose at least 40.
Yes, there is a high percentage of cars I'd be very happy with.
Yeah. And just scroll. I'm at about 45 right at the minute, and yes, I agree.
If you scroll down, though, ladies and gentlemen, in your packs to number 35 and the BMW 6 Series E24, that is my choice.
Really?
Yes.
Friend of mine, a school friend of mine, his father had two very late ones. One of them was exactly the same spec, which is I've forgotten what it was called, late edition, as pictured here. Same color, same spec. And he had another older white one. He traded them both in for a very early 850, which then got replaced by another 850 CSI, but his were always manual. And he still has the second 850s, the 850 CSI. And they're very cool cars, very nice cars.
Yep. I love the styling is just ace. Just every angle looks great, in my opinion.
My one thing about it is that it was styled in the 1970s. Is it really a 1980s car? Well, you could debate either way. I don't care. I think it's really cool.
There's a few in here that you could argue that with.
Oh, there are. Yes, absolutely.
Considering there's 50, have you managed to whittle it down to just one you're prepared to talk about?
Yes. Well, yes. And I was worried we were both going to choose the same one. And we're not a million miles away. But if you go to number 45 in your pack, because for me, this bit towards the top with the higher numbers, I feel is the most interesting section of this list, actually. It gets kind of predictable in places, but I like this.
Not that they're bad.
Not that they're bad, they're just more predictable.
Yeah.
The BMW Z1.
Good choice.
Retractable doors and everything. I mean, it is essentially an E30 underneath. It's an E30 with a Z axle at the back, specifically a 325i. But it's very cool. I think I must still have quite a detailed toy one somewhere in metallic green with the black and khaki patterned seats. And I've just always thought it was a very cool car, and it shows a style and direction that BMW didn't completely dismiss it, but it didn't sort of run down either, particularly with the aforementioned 850, pardon me. I really like these. I always have done. I'm told the doors are incredibly impractical, rather silly, and not that pleasant to use, but I don't care.
No.
I like it. There was a whole family of mostly concepts from BMW in the sort of late 80s, early 90s. With this kind of design language, and I think it was when it was very much the ultimate driving machine, as was the 635 CSI, the ultimate driving machine era, and some of the best BMWs ever.
Yep,
lots of good cars. There was one from Italy that I almost chose.
There was a couple from Italy I almost chose. Right, I'm going to take us on to the and finally. And, well, think of this as a lunchtime watch because it is 42 minutes. It's from Goodwood Road and Racing's YouTube channel. And they go and visit the JLR Classic Works workshop and storage museum. And basically, it is a wonderful exploration of what they do, what vehicles they've got behind closed doors, and also what the ethos is behind it. I found that quite interesting that they, towards the beginning, they explain the whole principle behind it and why they do this apart from the money. But, why they try and execute to a high standard and will, basically, if you want to bring in your classic vehicle, modernize any aspect you want as long as your pockets are deep enough. But also talks about them being at Revival and Alex Brundle racing one of their cars around there that they'd built in the workshop and stuff. So that I thought that was really interesting. And
what I find really interesting is that at Alex Brundle 1 on YouTube left a comment below saying it's so brilliant working with these passionate guys.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that just seems kind of cool, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to like his comment. There we are. He now has a like on his comment. I think it's cool with people. He doesn't have to do that.
No. But I also think the companies that are doing this with their back catalogue are great. We know Merck, Porsche, BMW, Toyota are doing similar stuff with parts they're making available. I just think it's a great way to do it because it still continues to enable these cars to be on the road or accessible to us all, rather than just be something on a video that we look back at or pictures on our devices that we glance back at and do you remember when? And I think it's really important as well.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It really is, and it helps the brand, it helps the marketing, it helps all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, we happy to finish the show on a slightly more positive note.
Yes. There's been a ramp of positivity throughout the show.
Yes, because we need it.
Don't we all? That's not just us. Anyway, on which happy note, don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page at www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is via LinkedIn. If you search for my name there, you can find me. And Alan, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you personally, perhaps to discuss BMW Z1 in more detail?
Oh, happily. You can use LinkedIn if you want, but really, outside of working hours, it's best to use Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY.bsky.social. We will be back very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.